We're at the Elemental booth at SCTE Cable Tech Expo. We're talking with Keith Wimes, who's the Vice President of Marketing for Elemental. And one of the things that has been transpiring of late, of course, is multi-screen moving into the cloud. We've seen, especially in the past few months, in Amsterdam at IBC, the number of announcements about people doing things in the cloud has been astonishing. It seems like every vendor now has cloud solutions that they're offering. And of course, a huge challenge to all that is how do you get the transcoding processes, all the video processing that has to be done remotely, and yet timed in such a way that the end user is experiencing as if it was just at the local head end or something. Not too much different in some respects from the consolidation of head ends. So in that sense, but you guys, to my knowledge, one of the first, if not the first, of the transcoding suppliers to move into the cloud and offer a cloud solution. Tell me a little bit about what that has entailed as far as making that feasible from a transcoding perspective.
So it took a long time. is the first answer to that. I mean, I think we announced 2 years ago basically a relationship with Amazon where we did a technical proof of concept when they were rolling out their GPU-based instances for their AWS for EC2. And so it was a technical proof of concept. And over the last 2 years, we basically evolved that from technical proof of concept to basically hosting our software in the cloud to having a full platform as a service. And so at NAB, we announced the general availability of that. That was about 1.5 years in the making. We announced that we were going to be turning up customers. We started doing that in May after about, I guess it was 6 to 8 months of beta work with our beachhead customers. And then at IBC just last month, we announced publicly the first customer behind Elemental Cloud. And so it's a company called Access Digital Entertainment. They happen to be in Australia, which isn't so close. But they are doing all the ultraviolet creation for Australia and New Zealand. And so when they basically got the rights to do that, they looked to the studios to say, what is the underlying video processing technology that you would recommend? They recommended Elemental, and they happen to implement entirely a cloud-based workflow for everything. So they receive their content from the studios in the cloud, they process that content in the cloud, and they deliver it from the cloud. They have no physical infrastructure.
So the digital locker of the people that are subscribing or buying the content and using Access services are basically, when they access that content, it's streamed to them live, and that is being transcoded through your processors.
Correct. All running on AWS.
And the net result of that is that they are having an experience that's comparable to anything that they could get.
Yeah, I mean,
in their own access right in their home.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of customers that have ground-based resources. Obviously, for the first 3 years of our kind of product adoption, it was all ground-based resources. But we've implemented every line of code that's also available in the cloud. So, customers that we have like HBO and Comcast and the NBA and Major League Baseball and Telefonica, BBC, they deliver a level of premium content to their users via their ground resources. But we have that same capability available in the cloud now. And we also have the ability to create hybrid approaches where customers maybe want to match the supply with the demand that they have for video processing, but they don't want to make that maximum investment that would be required to deal with those peaks. So they have a certain base level of ground infrastructure that they keep in place. And then, as you know, in the media industry, there's ebb and flow to demand of video processing. There are windows involved, there are events that happened, there are just spikes that are not put into the plans. And so it allows them to spike up to meet those demands when they need it, and they can turn it up within minutes and do the processing and then spin it back down. There's no waste in that.
When you
that
say
type
spin
of model.
it back down, is this something that happens over days, over hours?
It can be over minutes.
Over minutes. and so I assume there's a pricing structure that follows that.
Yeah,
capability.
our pricing structure is built on time of commitment in terms of annual commitment, and there are minimum volumes that are committed to each month. It can be very low, and then if they go over that, or if they don't want to commit to that, they can commit to an hourly rate. We don't actually do our billing in minutes, but the system can be turned up and down within minutes.
What is your sense of in terms of the general type of customer that you deal with, whether it's an NBC or HBO or a broadcaster or a service provider? What is your sense of the demand for cloud-based usage, especially in terms of catching this added capacity needs that especially are happening in VOD?
Yeah, I mean, I've been surprised. We made this bet a number of years ago, and it was definitely very early. We are obviously a vendor that targets the high end of the market. Our performance capabilities are suited for those that are doing a lot of video processing. And so there's a natural tendency to think maybe the high end of the market is a little bit more conservative in this area, a little bit more protective, and they are. They are concerned about security, they're concerned about having their content outside of their walls, but not as much as you'd think. A lot of them are already using cloud-based resources for storage and disaster recovery. And some of the brands that we haven't announced yet are the world's largest media companies. They are names that anyone, even outside the industry, would know, and they're using them for a lot of their core workflows that they have. So I've been surprised by it, and it's been across, for us, it's been across both the operator space as well as the broadcast space, as well as the programmer space and studios. So we've been turning up those customers, working with them really closely to make sure that it has that level of security, that level of containment. One of the advantages that we have as a solution is that we can, in the GPU instances that we utilize, there's no multi-tenant capability. That particular instance that is spun up at any moment is theirs entirely, so their content is partially secured in that way by not having others sharing the same resources. That's not always true in CPU-based implementations.
Well, of course, once you move it in the cloud, you're in a whole different environment where now it's not just about transcoding, it's about getting the content in there. So now you take on the ingest burden, and you take on the tracking of the metadata and all that stuff. Are you doing that, or are you working with partners to do
We work with partners. So to do the file acceleration, we work with the typical partners in that area to help the upload speeds to the cloud. But a lot of our customers have their mezzanine assets in S3 already on Amazon. And so it's just a direct connection to the EC2 processing, and it's extremely fast. I forget what the actual connection speed is between those, but it's not like uploading from a ground data center, for instance. It's a little bit easier than doing that. But we do partner in that area.
What about, where does live come into play, and how does the ingestion work in that kind of a situation?
Yeah, so in a live scenario, and we've done demonstrations of this, and it'll become available within a couple months to our customers. We showed it actually at IBC for the first time. In a live scenario, you actually do a conditioning with a ground unit. So you're reducing the bit rate of whatever the source file is to a manageable upload bandwidth, so you can have a bit rate that can actually traverse the network up into the cloud, and then you create all the, in our world, it's typically a multi-screen encoding that's going on the cloud, and so you create the 8 to 10 or 12 different video profiles that you want, repackage for Adobe or Apple or MPEG Dash, and then it can be distributed either over CloudFront, if that's their chosen CDN, or down to Akamai to a publishing point.
What do you determine to be the reasonable bit rate for that?
It all depends. It depends. Right, it depends. I mean, if you're at a local high school, it's going to be lower. Then it depends on what you have in terms of network bandwidth. The thing you want to be careful of is doing too many generations of compression where you're squeezing it down, because you're going to suffer basically on the quality side. So we're typically seeing that conditioning encode at about 8 to 10 megabits per second.
That's on an HD signal.
On an HD signal. Yeah. And we want to do it at HD so that we can then create the SD profiles and mobile profiles.
So in looking at the onset of 4K and the resource requirements of doing that, especially in the early incremental phases, it seemed like at least in the on-demand space, that the cloud would be a logical place to utilize it. Is there any thoughts along those lines?
I think for 4K and HEVC, especially in the on-demand where there are a lot of libraries that need to maybe be converted. Once 4K and HEVC go, once we're at the go time, there's going to be a tremendous amount of demand for video processing, and I think the cloud is a logical answer to that. It depends on how fast people want to get to market. In reality, we've deployed thousands of nodes essentially around the world for our customers. We can spin up thousands of nodes of our same capability within hours on AWS. What took us 3 years to deploy. A customer sends us an order for a piece of an appliance. It can be 4 weeks lead time, a week of shipping, waiting around to install it, going through all that configuration. With Amazon AWS and our solution with Elemental Cloud, it can be spun up within minutes. And we can do thousands of those at once. It's really going to be amazing.
So I guess on the on-demand side, then I'm not hearing that there are any other than just needing more processing power, particular impediments to using the cloud for 4K. There's not like some new thing you have to do.
I don't think so. I think it's just getting the content up there.
Yeah.
As is always the case, the bit rate of the 4K is obviously a little bit higher than anything else we're dealing with. So that will be the biggest challenge. Once it's there, it shouldn't be a problem. And then figuring out, obviously, all the distribution issues that happen with 4K are going to be the same, regardless of whether it was processed in the cloud or on the ground.
And to that point, of course, with the live, 8 to 10 megs ain't going to getting it live up there. So that would be a little low. That becomes another issue that you may not want to go there.
I think live and cloud is going to take a little bit longer to converge. That's going to take many years, I would say, to converge.
We'll be anxiously awaiting that moment.
Great.
Hey, Keith, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Fred.